Welcome back. We are on episode 4 of Headlocks and Handoffs. I am one of your co-hosts, Chris, Coach Mammone, Momo, whatever you want to call me, and my other gracious, amazing host, Wiz.
Anthony. That's it.
That's why we make a great
That's
team.
it.
That's it. That's it.
I don't need a
So,
long list of names to call myself. Just call me Anthony.
just don't call you late for dinner. It's all good. So listen, I'm excited because tonight is our fourth episode, but the second one of our handoff part, all about our running days. So I want to continue what we were talking about last time. We were talking about the best and worst of cross country. Let's continue that going into winter track, and then if we have time, spring track. Maybe we can get to a little story up in Providence on when we
Oh,
went there.
maybe. I don't know. I don't know if we'll have time for that. We'll circle around when we come back
We
to that.
might.
If
We
we can.
got the stopwatch going
Yeah,
till
the
it.
stopwatch now so we can keep track of the time this time. So maybe this one won't be as long as the other ones. Although we finished the last podcast and we're like, oh, that couldn't have been that long. Definitely not near the other ones. No, it was 51 minutes. So we were right
Yeah,
along with the rest of them. So let's see if we can make this one slightly shorter.
49.
49 minutes and 59 seconds.
Listen, we're distance runners. We go for a long time. That's how it is. Can't
That's
give
it.
that up.
So, like Chris was talking about, we went over cross country and our highlights of good things that went on and the highlights of the bad stuff. When you run in high school or any sort of competitive race, you're never going to run great all the time. You're always going to have some sort of bad race or some bad experience, but the bad stuff definitely, I think, outweighs the good because the bad will definitely teach you more about how to get better at what you're supposed to be doing. And as coaches, we definitely teach that as well to our athletes about not having great days all the time, but learning from those mistakes or those bad days. And we definitely have. And that's why we do what we do now. Obviously, you and I don't really look like runners anymore,
It's the
but that's
mustache.
okay.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why.
I fill out my shirts now, so they're not like totally loose on me anymore. But that's a good side of gaining weight, not the other side. But
Yes. But
it's putting all the years on our bodies and taking the time to kind of step away from the competitive part and just concentrating on passing our knowledge off to the younger generation, as you would.
mm, the next generation of
Next
all
generation
stars.
of wannabe coaches.
Yes. But
So
yes,
I
I do
figure,
agree. Like, yes, I was gonna say real quick, we do learn a lot more from our losses than our victories. And I know we spoke about it a little bit last time, but really just trying to figure out, hey, why did I lose this race? Went out too fast. I didn't do enough in the end. Hey, didn't know this person was in the race. A lot of those things always add up.
yep,
And when you win, it's sometimes just like, oh, okay, I just felt good today. But there was no one else there.
then you backtrack a lot of that stuff when you talk about maybe not you're not prepared or you don't know you just did something wrong. It all starts when you're supposed to be doing what you begin doing, like your base mileage and all your base training, your summer training, which is very important to any sort of runner that is going into a season or going into 3 seasons in the following year, high school, college based, or even just, post collegiate. You have to do all the work prior to it. You can't just expect something to happen all the time.
Overnight.
You have to build toward it. And not a lot of people understand that. But as runners, most of us are very impatient people. We're very stubborn about that. We just want the results now and that's it. But you have to be able to learn that you have to put in the work prior to leading up to everything else because you could do workouts, but you need to do the bulk of that stuff on your own leading up to benefiting from certain workouts later in the year. You know, as coaches, we coach all 3 seasons. We're always telling our athletes, you got to start doing stuff on your own and listening to what you need to do, especially during the summer, because we're not always there. And, it's pretty much all on you. And I know I took that seriously in high school. I'm almost certain you took that very seriously too. If you do
100%.
it, then you pretty much shoot yourself in the foot for the rest of the year. So,
hmm And I know I've had a handful of athletes that didn't do anything over the summer. They were definitely blessed to be very good, but it took them a while, and they were getting beat by other people that really shouldn't have been there at all.
right.
And then as they're getting in better shape, they're going to state meets and other things like that. But if they did anything over the summer, they would have been in a much better position.
Those are, I, I understand what you're saying with that. And that's very true. And I guess from my perspective, the way I trained, I may have not been as talented as the top level guys, but I worked hard because I knew I wasn't even anywhere near close to that. But I knew I had to work extra hard just to even be, you know, just to be in the race, at least for a little while. But I knew that my abilities definitely weren't as, wasn't there where maybe someone like you who had natural ability, but also worked really hard and was able to go to that next level, which is great. And you definitely benefited from that. But, we looked up to people like you, to kids like you when I was in high school, because you were the guys that were on top and you were the guys that really set the standard for all of us. So I may have not run anywhere fast like you did, but I needed to work that much harder just to even get to my top ability. But I mean, again, my training was a lot different than what you probably did.
But I think with a lot of that too, because it's running, we're all against a clock. And I've had seasons, or I've even had like a full year where I didn't improve. And yeah, I might have won counties, I might have gone to state meet, but it wasn't a good year for me. And while I would have a teammate that would knock off 35 seconds in his 2 mile, 22 seconds in the mile, he had a really great year. And yes, I was already kind of that much faster than a lot of people, so I was able to get to bigger, better races, but it wasn't a successful year, I would say.
Right.
And I'm actually already kind of hinting at something that's going to come back later on
I'm
in
sure.
part of the stories. But
We could talk about this all day. We can always talk about the do's and the don'ts and what we could have
Mhm.
done and all that stuff. And we can go on for hours about that. But we're already 6 minutes and 40 seconds in.
It's a long intro, that's all.
Very long intro. So why don't you start? I think I started last time. Why
Okay,
don't you start with your? I guess let's start with a positive. Let's start with your
let's do it.
best, your best memory of indoor
All
season.
right. So best memory, I am going to say I kind of have two. Okay, and one of them was they're actually both during my senior year. I was at the Armory in the city. You know the British announcer.
Yes,
I
Ian.
want to. I was
Great
gonna say I
guy.
want to say his name is Ian, and he always had like these crazy plaid color pants on. Okay, it was a 2 mile in high school. I want to say maybe Hispanic games.
Sounds
Some
familiar.
I think it's Hispanic games, but it was one of the more elite meets around.
Mhm.
And the night before, we were at some like Mickey Mouse meet at Farmingdale, SUNY Farmingdale. Okay. So because back then, like we would run whenever we could, and even though it was a super big race on Saturday, still ran in the meet on Friday. And
Right.
we did a 4x8. I ran lead off, ran really well, feeling good, and then I go now Saturday. So I still kind of have that 800 in my legs from the night before. Go out in the race, and I'm in the lead by a lot. Okay, so this is Hispanic games. It's a big race.
I'm pretty
I'm
sure I remember being there and watching this race as well. But
so
again, we
with
weren't friends then. But
yes, no, I didn't even know you. Didn't know you existed.
yeah, I didn't know that was.
Sorry, but
That hit me hard when you said that, right?
sorry.
It's like, oh, that's Chris Mammone. He doesn't know the little guys.
I knew some of you. No, I'm just kidding. I
Yeah.
didn't know any of you.
Yep.
No, I know you like that. But so every time I go around, let's say I went through like 219, 220 at the half,
Right.
and there was like probably a straightaway gap I had on the field, and this is like Dalpiez, probably Charlie Million probably wasn't in there, but just like a lot of like
Well, he
the
was a year
studs.
older than us, right?
Charlie,
I think Charlie was a year older than
he
us.
was the same year as us.
Was you sure? Oh, he was.
Yeah,
I thought he was a year older.
positive. And then Dalpiez, well, I think was 2 years younger.
Yeah.
So I have this big lead against like all these studs, and every time I come around with the lap, the British announcer is talking up like crazy. And in his voice, like, "Oh, this is Chris Mammone in the front. Hey, I spoke to him before the race." I don't know what accent that is, so I'm gonna stop. I
Yeah,
see you.
just explain it. Don't. No accents.
Okay, ready?
Doesn't suit
In,
you.
insert British accent now with this quote.
I can type it right on here.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Type in a British accent. So each stop I come around, he's saying on the microphone, "Oh, this is Chris Mammone from Valley Stream South. He's still in the lead. He said he's going to run a gutsy race today." And he says this. He's like, "I spoke to him before the race, and he says this is his race to win. If you want me, come get me," or something like that.
Did you
And
say
I'm
that?
hearing, no, I didn't know the guy. That was the best part. I'm like, this guy's talking out of his butt. Like,
I didn't say a
what?
word to
Yeah.
you.
I'm like, that wasn't me. I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Yeah, let's furiate the other two guys behind you that want to
Exactly. Exactly. but it's like I had the lead for the whole mile. So let's say the first lap I went out nothing crazy fast, but I just kind of kept that pace going. So let's say it was like 218, probably like two 329, 330, four low 440s at the mile, and then let's say at 2K the field kind of started coming in. And the announcers like, oh, the field's starting to catch Mammone, and he's going with all this stuff. And these guys are kind of flying by. And you know that in any race, when you're getting either lapped or people are going by, it's the worst feeling possible. And it's kind of like, oh my God, this sucks.
It's almost like you're almost like it's like I can't do anything about this, or like mind's
Yes.
like, what am I doing? I can't. I can't go any faster than this.
And it's kind of like I'm shot right now. They're going by like I'm standing still, and guys are going flying by. And there was this little part where I was like, no, I gotta stick with them. And I stuck with them a lap, a little bit more. More guys would go by. I didn't go back up and win the race, so this isn't like this great big story. Like I led and then I came back. No, I think Dalpiez might have ran like 918 or something with like a new meet record. But what was really cool about that day is that's when I met Mick Burns from Iona. He was wearing his Iona hat. I saw him, and he kind of said, he's like, the announcer was calling your name the whole time. It was kind of hard, like, not to realize what was going on the track. And he said, he's like, what stuck out the most was, yeah, you went out fast, but it was a relatively solid pace. It wasn't like I was going out in 410 for the mile. It was,
Right.
no, I was running 440. That's a 922 mile. That's basically what the winner ran. But he was seeing, like, when the guys started going by, I didn't just give up. Like, I stuck out there, and I didn't win, but I was up there. I might have finished top 6 or something. Like I still kept myself in the race. And I just always thought that was cool. Like, just it was really the whole first mile. The British announcer every single lap as I went around. I was like, this is pretty cool. I hope I still win. I hope I win. I hope I win.
But again, it's like cool that we get to watch someone like you at that level, and then watching all these other guys that are like big names in Long Island, big names in New York State for that matter. And like, you got a guy like Brian Dalpiez, who is 2 years younger than us.
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years, and this guy, this phenom, just coming out and just staying all with these top guys, and Chris Milione that ended up going.
Charles.
They both Charles Milione. Then they both ended up going to Georgetown, but never really panned out. I don't think, but
I feel like they kind of had more accomplishments in high school. I feel like they both had such an amazing high school career.
oh yeah,
It was hard to really do more.
it
I
is tough, especially in the sport. It's very tough to mimic something like that, and to just to even be on that same level your first year of college and adjusting to something like that, especially
Completely.
big programs like that. I mean, I'm sure you could tell us, even, and obviously we'll talk about that future episode of college experiences, about
Definitely.
adjusting to different training and different coaching and different atmospheres and general. So I mean, but what's even more fascinating is that you talk about a race like that, which is awesome, about guys, you're throwing out these times, and I'm going to tell you my best memory, and it's going to be like, okay, and I told everybody I was maybe a slightly above average runner, nothing great, but I worked. But my memories are a little different, but that's okay. We get it from one end of the spectrum, then we come to the other end of the spectrum.
That's all right.
Because everyone can relate to one or the other, which is nice.
Hopefully.
I hope. Obviously, like I said, I don't look like a runner anymore. Imagine
Nor
me,
do I.
125 pounds.
Really?
Oh yeah, 125 pounds. And what am I now? 203 pounds.
Whoa! That's a big difference. Oh, it's 90 pounds right there.
Boom. Anyway,
Boom.
so mine is basically, it was just a buried memory. And I'll tell you why it would be more of a buried memory. So mine was at the Armory as well. And mine was at the New Balance games.
Yes.
And the New Balance
Senior
games,
year?
again, senior year. Senior year was New Balance games, and I felt like that was obviously another one of those big prestigious meets, because you had the pro races. All right. Oh no, it wasn't New Balance games. I apologize. It was definitely not games. It was,
Because I was going to bring up a little story about New Balance game.
New Balance. It wasn't, because I remember the bus never came for us to go to New Balance games my senior year.
Yeah, that happens.
That Alan Webb broke 4 minutes indoors as a high schooler.
Yep. Hey, yeah, I wasn't in his race, but that actually is my fastest mile in high school that day. I was in like the high school boys race, not pro men. Yeah.
Oh, that would have been cool, right?
Hell yeah.
But whatever armory race it was, it could have been the Hispanic Games. It was one of those meets that we were at the armory for a very long period of time. It might have been Hispanic Games. So the only races I was running for the day was I was running a 4x4 and a 4x8, and they were pretty much back to back, which was fine. But again, when I talk buried, I mean I was in like heat 17 of the 4x4 boys, and then before that ran the heat 20 something of 4x8 boys. Like it was just all over the place. But the reason why that's such a great memory, and because having, you know, the memory of even something that wasn't in really a big race per se, like something like you being in like a championship race, this was just something that I took pride in, because no matter what heat you're in, no matter who you're racing, you're going all out. You're putting in your best effort and you're doing the best you can, and that's all you can really do. So the reason why that's good is because when I led off in the 4x8. I led off in both races. So I led off for the 4x8, and I ran a PR. Nothing great. I think it was 2:10. I ran a PR of 2:10, which was my fastest 800 at the time. And then getting back into the corral to meet up with my 4x4 team to now get back on the track and do it again.
Yep.
Obviously, I had a little bit more time in between, but just not even cooling down, just getting back in there, getting ready to go, getting back on the line, running the 4x4, leading off, running a PR in the 4x4. I think it was like a 57 and change.
Nice.
No, again, nothing
You
great.
got some wheels.
I did then. You couldn't ask
them.
me to do that now. Maybe I can run a 77 on the track, and I'll probably be dead right after it. But
You could still go 57 seconds.
yeah, I can run 57 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going to end me, but I probably will get halfway through the track. But then that was a pretty cool moment, because I was able to run 2 PRs, even though they were relays. But, you know, again, I didn't take any race for granted. Every race I ran my absolute heart out, because what else could I really do? I wasn't really one of those guys can then just cruise and be okay. And just, you know, I did what I had to do. And, you know, it was fun, and definitely probably my proudest moment in indoor track, at least. But
Nice. For high school, at least.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
let's not talk college.
No, we have post collegiate too.
Yeah.
Like the time went to Providence. But that's another
Yeah,
time. That's another episode.
We don't have time for that. We're 17:45 in. We probably don't have time for that right now.
All right. So we're at like a 5K for high school.
Right.
So, I do gotta say though, I had like those two I kind of wanted to share.
Oh yes, please. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
So no, it's all good. So I'll share my other one, and then you want to go to your worst after.
I just don't like you talking all the time.
I know. I'm sorry. It just
You're gonna get a more fan base than I am. I'm trying to talk so I can get a little bit more. Okay.
I'm your number one fan, so don't worry.
And I'm your number one fan.
Depends on the day, but yeah.
Yeah.
Someone else might not want that.
Proceed.
So, once again, our senior year, it's the indoor conference meet. So, quick little trivia. Do you remember where the indoor meets were for winter track? For a conference meet, or even counties?
For indoor counties?
Yep.
We're at Farmingdale.
Yep. So, SUNY Farmingdale. Yeah, you're right. So, SUNY Farmingdale, which was a little bit nicer than Nassau and a little bit bigger, but like not too much.
No.
So, this was when, let's say, like the conference 3 and 4s would be combined, but it was boys only. It wasn't what they do now, boys and girls at the same meet. It was boys only. So they combined conference 3 and 4. So in the 2-mile, let's say there's 25 guys on the track. Right. There was no 55 semis. So it went 2-mile, 1,000, some other events, and going on from there. So my coach put me in the 2-mile, the 1,000, and the mile. And I was a much better 2-miler than everyone else in the field in our conference. So I'm out there I'm knowing now, okay, I'm doing the 1,000 right after. So I'm really not trying to run hard.
You got to leave a little bit in the tank there, right?
Well, exactly. And I knew the other guys in the 1,000 are pretty good. And I was like, I'm probably 3rd, 4th ranked in the 1,000. But of course, my goal is I'm going to try to run as fast as I can, get as many points for the team, and hopefully we win as a team or second, or we do something really good. So talking with my coach, it's like, okay, 2-mile, 1,000-mile. Okay. So I'm kind of in the 2-mile, not running super hard, but enough to be up there. My brother is at the race, and when we get to think of now Farmingdale, like I guess 100 meters on the other side, like
Right,
just
right.
on the other side of the track. My brother's there and sees me in like fifth or sixth place hanging back. And he starts yelling and going crazy, like, come on, Chris, you gotta move up. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? You gotta move up. So I move up and I start running hard. I get to the finish line. My coach is there being like, Mammone, chill out. What are you doing? Like, relax, relax. So I'm almost doing a fartlek the whole time. My brother's on the other end yelling at me to speed up. My coach is at the finish line telling me to slow down. My coach and I know, hey, I'm doing the 1,000 next leg. Let's just chill out. So I finished a 2 mile. Couldn't tell you what I ran, but I won the 2 mile by a decent amount. As I'm like still sweaty, spikes on, or like the rubber spikes on, I go into the 1,000. And as I go over, I'm like, yeah, I think one of my teammates checked me in, but I got the hip number. I go in, I was like, oh, I need, hip 3 for the 1,000. And Dusty from Great Neck, he was in the race during like the other conference. He sees it. He's like, Mamone, you running this? I'm like, yeah. But you just ran the 2 mile. I'm like, yeah, and I won it, and gonna try to run the 1,000 now. And it was just like him and a few of the people were really just like, you just ran 2 miles though and you won, and now you're coming on here and like we were conference 3 or whatever it was, like we were
Right.
the bigger conference there, so we were up first. So finish the 2 mile, they get everyone off the track, and then they like there might have been one heat before us, but then it was basically us. So let's say 6 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Got on the track, had a 7-second PR, I ran 2:41 and got the win. And then later that day, won the 1,600 also. And for me, like the 1,000 was just such a big thing because it was a PR. It was after that, and it was kind of like for me that really just awesome moment where it's like people were counting me out because I just ran, and that always kind of got me going. Where I'm like that mental kind of runner, and when you say like I can't do something, I'm gonna make you eat your words. And it was just like a lot of adrenaline and just knowing, hey, we're just gonna get a whole bunch of points here. Like
That's
we're just
awesome.
gonna win as a team. So it
Especially
was
to
like
win,
really cool.
like to win all three of your events in that fashion. That's pretty sick.
It was a cool night.
That definitely is pretty. That sounds pretty cool. You know
It
what? This.
it was. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, you were freezing for a second. Keep going.
Oh, you froze too. Go ahead, unfreeze. Time out. Go.
Okay, you go.
So 2 mile, 1,000 mile. By the time I got to the mile, I don't even remember who was there then, but it was kind of like a relaxing type of race
Right.
where I didn't have to run that hard and just kind of just going and I remember even being in the race like thinking of that night like this is pretty good. All right,
That's pretty
successful
cool.
night.
That's
Hmm.
pretty cool. It's
It
funny
was fun.
because like there's very few times in my life where I could probably count barely on one hand the amount of races I've won in my life. So like for you to do it 3 times in one night is like just like that's all. That's so cool. Like people dream of just doing stuff like that. Seriously,
And that's not the first time I've done that.
I know. I'm sure it's not, and you didn't stop from there either. Like I said, there's very few people who can say that. Very few, which
you
is
know,
cool.
I think we should have an episode of bizarre doubles and
I don't have any
well,
of those.
okay, well I could share a few. I think would just
I
be
don't have
fun.
bizarre doubles. I raced one good race and then the double part was not very good after that.
6 months later.
Yeah, not good.
Ah,
But you know it's funny. You bring up like you say you won those 3 races, and I don't for some reason like obviously it's not an indoor track thing, but I won the first race I ever won in my life was in high school, but I did it outside of high school on like a turkey trot,
okay.
which was cool. But that, as cool as that was, like that'll save for probably another time. But we want to concentrate on track stuff right now.
All right.
But
And
that's
keep
pretty.
a competitive time.
Oh yeah, 24 minutes and 31 seconds. We're rolling. We're rolling.
We are.
Um, so I guess we can go into
The negativity.
the
Yeah, the
bad.
bad.
The
We
bad.
have the good, we have the bad, and then the ugly. I don't know if we
Well,
even
the
want
bad,
that.
the ugly comes with the bad.
That is true. Okay.
So mine's more of not like a race particularly. It kind of led up to one. So it was our junior year. Oh no, with that I'm thinking of something completely. I'm thinking I'm thinking of spring track.
Well, now it's kind of the same, so
Well,
I
yeah,
can
that
see how you're
but
confused.
you go first with your with the bad.
Okay, I'll give you some time to think.
Yeah, I got to think back to what I said before. I don't know why I forgot about it, but you go. Maybe
All
I'll
right.
interrupt you halfway. Like, no, 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 it's my turn.
Yeah, you might. So, all right. So for my worst was actually the state meet our senior year. Now I made for the mile and the 2 mile. Now the mile at the New Balance schemes that you kind of brought up before when Webb went sub 4, I ran 4:27 that day. Not in the same heat, but that was like the qualifier, the time qualifier. So as long as I was in the top 3 or top 4 now, I would make it to states, whatever that was. So I
Right.
finished top 4 at state quals, and also in the 2 mile I was in top 2 and made it to the state meet. So training was going well. I was feeling great, and like a week or 2 weeks before the state meet, I actually was getting like super sick, where like my nose was completely stuffed up, wasn't able to breathe well. Workouts were going downhill fast, and I was just so absolutely congested and feeling horrible. So I go to the state meet, and I was actually with one of my teammates there, Nick Kroll. Do you remember
Yeah,
him?
I remember Nick.
Okay.
Yep.
So him and I like shared the room together, and I remember the night before he's like, "Hey, can you not like sleep face to face? Like, can you go head to foot? Because I don't want you sneezing on me or like." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, I get it." And, like, I am all congested and feel horrible. So the 2 mile was the first event, and I'm not feeling good warming up, like just not feeling good at all. And we go through the first mile, probably like 4:45 or so. And before I keep going, this was the year that nationals was the same day as the New York State meet. So all of like the good studs, like the top guys in New York, were at nationals, not the state meet. So I knew like going into, I'm like, all right, this I'm feeling good training. This will be a really good year. I could probably win the state meet. Like the guys that are running 9:20, 9:15, 9:10, they're going nationals
Yeah.
because I'd rather be a national champ or all American than a state champ. Like this
Right.
sounds better. Okay.
Right. Right.
So I knew because of the guys in New York, most would not be there at the state meet. So, okay, I'm going there. I'm in great shape, but I'm basically super sick. Go through the first mile, and I'm kind of with the leaders, but not really. And then each lap from there, I am just dropping like crazy, where it felt like running up cardiac at Sunken Meadow.
Ugh.
Where the first mile was okay, it was challenging, but okay. And then, like, so it just got worse and worse and worse. And I remember after, so you know me, and I'm very headstrong and have like a strong mentality. I actually scratched from the mile that night or that day.
Really?
Yeah. Because I'm like, I just feel horrible and I'm going to embarrass myself and not run like anything near what I should. And I was in the fast heat because of my time. So I'm like, these guys are going to be running 4:20 and I'm going to be finishing up at 5:10. I'm like, I'm going to get lapped at the state meet. I'm like, it's embarrassing. And so like it sucked having to scratch my, and even a while after, I still regret that a lot. Whereas like I was already up there, like should have just jumped in the race and run it. Like what's the worst that could have happened? I
Right.
run 5:10. Who cares?
But again, you're a kid then, so you don't really know. Yeah, you have a strong head on your shoulder, but
Hmm.
you don't know. That's like a different type of thought. Like you think about it at the moment. You're not gonna remember it 20 years later and be like, oh well, you know what, I
Still
should
do.
have. Don't worry, we all regret certain things we've done and
Hmm.
stuff like that. I know I definitely do, and things like that haunt you, but you,
They
you learn
definitely do.
you learn to live with it, unfortunately.
Hmm.
But are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm still
Okay.
still just
By the way, I
going on that.
remembered. I remembered what my memory was 1 second into you talking.
Not surprised.
I'm like, wait, oh yeah. So again, mine's not at a very big meet. You remember the friendship games?
Yes, that was my favorite meet.
Great,
Serious.
great, great series of meets there. Um,
To
not
talk
on a
talk.
great track, but
Yeah, I'll say talk a little bit about it before you come up with the story because the
right, right,
friendship games don't even exist anymore.
right. So the friendship games were around for since when we were doing it a little over 10 years, and it
Yeah,
only stopped only about maybe 4 years ago,
about that.
somewhere right in there. So I mean, it was going on for a long time, very long time. Unfortunately, we don't have it anymore, which is kind of a bust because that was always a great meet to go to.
Hmm.
It was very short. Um, the competitiveness of the races were actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
The track wasn't the most ideal track. It was what, like 165-meter track of some sort,
Yeah,
whatever it was.
it
So you
was
couldn't really get splits anywhere. You know,
completely.
you
It
couldn't.
was that Nassau community, and I remember, think you showed me like um all the measurements because I think someone else had that, and every race started in a different spot. So
Yeah,
the 1,000 was like you have 6 laps, but you start all in the back. The
right.
600 is 3 laps, but you start in the middle of the turn. The relays were called 4 by 2.5 laps, four
Yeah,
by 5 laps,
it was.
because like it's
Guys,
about that
it
distance, but
is.
not really.
It is.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. But
So
so
before you go on, what was really cool about that also is it was a whole series. So
yes.
there were three, I think, or two or three preliminary meets, and then you got into the championship.
Yep.
And they had nice trophies, top six. They had flowers. They had like a lot of
Yeah.
really
Oh
cool stuff.
yeah. You
A ton of
accumulate
medals.
points. Accumulate points. You get medals every meet. There was a novice race. Your
Yep.
open race. I think they had a freshman race.
Yeah. Frosh, Soft,
You know.
novice, open.
So it was a pretty cool meet to go to. Pretty much, you you kind of build yourself up. So if you could be a junior, never won a medal, you're in a novice race, and then
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of build yourself up to like the open race eventually. And like I said, you just accumulate the points, and then when you get to the championships, then the top guys and girls would go and compete against each other, and in a morning session for the open session, and then you had your championships in the afternoon for the boys, and then later in the afternoon for the girls, or vice versa, depending on the year we were
Mm-hmm.
doing that. But again, like, it was always a cool race to go to. It was
Definitely.
local. Obviously, the track wasn't great, but it was really cool atmosphere when you're
Atmosphere.
there,
Yeah.
because everyone's so squished. I mean, you couldn't do that
Yes.
nowadays, but everyone was like just squished together. So you're always conversing with other teams. You're talking to other people you probably normally wouldn't talk to, which I
Mm-hmm.
thought was pretty cool because you got to know other people. You got to know the people in your races. I know there was a kid in my race when I ran that I would race against later on in road races, like maybe after college, and just watching these guys still competing later on was pretty
It's
cool.
pretty cool.
But
Yeah.
I remember running, and I remember I wanted to run the mile that year, but my coach told me that would be better off in the 2 mile. I said, all right. And I till this day, still, the race, the first 2 mile I ever ran was against you, and that was the fastest 2 mile I ever ran, and I never came close back to it. But
I'm your good luck charm.
yeah, so I remember being in the race. I remember doing okay the first couple of meets. I got me to the championship section, which was pretty cool. For me, that was a huge deal. Like, just even making it there, I was like, all right, So they took 7 people. And you remember you mentioned before they would only give top 6
Oh
trophies.
yeah.
So I remember in that race, and I remember being ranked 6th. And it was me and 2 of my other teammates were in there, Matt DiGiorgio and Bobby Hoffman. I think Floyd Main was in the race too.
Yeah, I
Um,
can see that.
Chris Kegel from Calhoun.
Okay.
And I can't really remember any of the other guys. The only reason I remember Chris because Chris would always be one step ahead of me after every race. He would always beat me by a step every single time, and it would just drive me nuts. So I remember going into this race, I'm like, I'm going to come home with a trophy. I'm going to actually win something individually for myself, not just a relay medal of some sort. So I always just have most of my medals that I have, the very few that I have, are basically a lot of relay stuff, not a lot of individual stuff, maybe some cross stuff. But
Hmm.
this was like something that I took personally because this is something I really wanted. I remember racing, and I got so, again, I just kept overthinking the race, and then I ended up finishing in 7th place, and then having to watch everybody in my race get a trophy while I stood there and I didn't get anything. Fortunately for me, I was able to make it up, and we ended up taking, I think, 3rd or 4th in the 4x8 and getting a trophy then, which was cool. And I still have the trophy, but it didn't mean as much as me trying to get an individual trophy. That was the
Hmm.
goal, and I was never able to get that, unfortunately, which kind of sucked. But that would definitely, to this day, still eats away at me. And then racing that guy Chris later on in a post
Yeah.
when we were running for the Belmore Striders, and I'm like, this guy, and he got really good. I was okay, but he got what much better as he got older,
Hmm.
and I was like, good for him. Like, that's awesome. You still just, I couldn't beat him. I just couldn't do it. That definitely ate away at me for a while.
But it's funny. I feel like those kinds of like losses, you remember so many years later
Yeah.
because they had such a huge influence.
Oh yeah.
And like you
Yeah.
don't think too much of it then, but when it's like, oh, still gets at me, still
Yeah.
gets to me. So,
Yeah. Like you said, it's just you learn from it. I get too hyped up, I guess, when I was in high school. I just got too pumped and I was just like, I'm gonna do this. I can run as fast as the top guys, but that was never the case.
hmm
I didn't belong there, but I felt I didn't belong there. But I went out there trying to race like I did belong there.
and
Sometimes that's a good thing. But sometimes it'll come back and it won't work out. But
yeah,
again, you learn from it.
think the biggest part is you're kind of even touching upon it now is just knowing your own fitness level.
Right.
And even if you feel really good, like go easier in the beginning because everyone feels good when the gun goes off. There's no lactic acid in your legs.
Yep.
You feel fresh. You feel great. But then after lap 4, 5, 6, 10, it's like I went out way too fast.
Yep. Especially
And
when you're indoors like that, because
yes,
you go right in the oxygen debt real quick when you don't
yep,
even realize it, and you're like, "No, I'm good. 3 laps in, I'm still feeling," and then it just hits you,
yep,
and you're like, "Well, that's the end of me."
yep,
And it's such a struggle, especially in the long races like that, because
completely.
what else can you really do? You know?
And with indoor running also, once you kind of hit that wall like that, there's really nothing you could do to like get back. You're done. That's it. Now it's like just try to get to the finish line.
And I think that's what separates our sport from everything else, is that you know you can you can go from 0 to 100. We can go from 100 to 0 real quick, and there's
Yep.
no coming back from that. There's no rest time. You're not taking a break.
hmm
Like you just gotta keep going. A
That's
lot of
it.
these
Yeah.
sports, you're tired. All right, you come out, rest. We're
Substitution. Yep.
running a 5K in cross country. We're running 2 mile indoors. There's no, hey, just take a few seconds. No,
Yeah.
we got to keep going,
Yep.
because there's what else can you do? You're in it, and that's it. Like, tough it out.
hmm
You may not want to be there 5 minutes in. You may not want to be there to be. You tough it out. Just get it done. And we've
hmm
run plenty of races like that.
Oh, completely.
When we get to spring, you were a steeplechaser. I wouldn't call myself a steeplechaser. I steeplechased, but we'll get into that. But I mean, you can. There's so many different races where anything can happen, and
hmm
I think you and I are both products of that, because we both have had races like that and some sort of level.
Yeah. We've seen it, we've been there as a coach, we've been in the race.
Oh yeah.
I remember, as you were saying with that, when I was coaching the boys at Valley Stream South at our division meet for the spring, I had two guys in the 110 hurdles, like the final on time heat. I think two or three guys, like the top three in there, got DQ'd because they false started or something else like that. And like you said, like it's always runs to the finish, get on the line and actually race because you never know how anyone else is feeling, what happened at home, what happened on the bus there, if someone didn't warm up,
Right.
if someone is cold, sick, whatever, you never know. And it's always like you have to go out there, race your best, not worry about anyone else, and just go for it. And
Yes.
that's I feel like that's how for me, that's how you get the best results.
Oh yeah. You just like, and people feed off that stuff. If they see
Yeah.
like you talking when you talking about coaching, when I used to coach at Mepham, I had this really talented 400-meter girl, and I had a very good squad in that race, but one team was just a little bit better in their first 3 legs, so it came down to one. And most people would be like, "Oh man, we're out. Why are we even bother doing this?"
Mhm.
You find that one person that'll just eat them up at the end with no mercy, and just watch as a race you think is completely out of
Yep.
your wheelhouse, and you're watching something like that. I mean, we've seen pro races that you see
Yeah.
guys come back out of nowhere. Nick Simmons runs races like that where you think the guy is out, and
Yeah.
then he just crushes everybody the last lap of the race, just
Yeah.
without any mercy. Those are the coolest races to watch,
Of
because
course.
say anything can happen.
Yes.
Anything can happen in any sort of way. You know, we are 40 minutes in, just to let you know.
And
I don't
that's
know if
one
we
thing
want to talk about. You want
I
to
want
talk
to think.
about Providence, or we?
No, no, we're not gonna have time for that
Okay,
because that's gonna be a long story. I was hoping to finish up spring, but we're 40 minutes already, and that's not good.
all right. I think maybe we'll save spring for the
Yes.
next episode, and maybe we'll
Yep.
talk about Providence if we have time.
Maybe. I don't know if it'd be next episode. It might just need its own episode,
It might. It might.
but
I mean, that's probably going to be a two-parter, if anything.
that's true.
So we might not have to do. Probably can't do it all in one episode. We might have to split it up.
Could be like the 2 hour mega episode.
Right. Now featuring the Providence story,
Part
part
one.
one.
Yeah.
I'd
Ah,
say that. But
that's
I
good.
think, I think above anything else, obviously we do a lot of our wrestling talk and stuff like that, and we can talk about that all the time. But when it
Yes.
comes to running, training, experience, life experience, racing at different levels, you racing at a much different level than other people. I may have not gotten to that level, but just watching like how you've trained and how you've done things, and it's pretty cool thing to talk about because anyone can share something they've experienced or something like that, because running is such a lifetime sport that fortunately everyone can do,
Hmm.
and everyone has some sort of experience with it, and always a good thing, and obviously it comes with the bad stuff as well. But you know we can continue talking about all the good stuff in high school, and but I'm guaranteed there's more good stuff in college. There's always good stuff after college, and you
And then
know
Providence. I
and
mean,
then there's Providence. I mean,
there's just there's a whole lot.
blows my mind every time I think about Providence.
I know that was crazy, but we'll get there. Um,
Anything you want to touch on before we wrap it
yeah,
up?
I was gonna say something, but I just lost my train of thought. Um, I just think, oh, so I feel sometimes people think like, especially in high school, all the running seasons are all the same, but I always feel like it's three really distinct differences. Yes, the training is similar, but for cross country in the fall, it's all long distance. Everyone's running a 5K. There's some 4Ks in there now, but it's a long distance. Winter, I always looked at like now it's time to kind of like get some speed in there. The track is half the size. Or at Nassau and
Right,
Farmville, it's like um,
three
you know,
quarters of size.
yeah, I was trying to think of something else, but yeah, 3/4. But what's crazy with that, it took me a while to realize it. Where in winter, because it's so small and so short, they do the bell lap. That's like, okay, you're like 150 left in the
Yeah,
race.
that's it. You're at a dead sprint at that point. Like no matter what you're doing.
Yes.
Oof.
And I remember hearing it, people be like, oh, you have to start your kick 3 laps out. And I'm like, 3 laps out? The whole race is only 4 laps. Oh, wait, no, that's a mile outdoors, but indoors, so 3 laps out is like, oh, it's only a lap and a half. Oh, okay, yo, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's 600. Okay. And actually, as I got older, doing 1500s more like with the Striders,
Right.
I would make a move 500 out. So going back to like for indoors in high school, yeah, 600 out is kind of like where you'd start moving up,
Yep.
where
Oh
you'd start
yeah.
doing something. And the part that also got me just how much smaller it is. It's not like outdoors where you have this whole 100-meter straightaway to make a move. If you don't go like right off the turn, you're gonna be running lane 2 or 3 or 4, and some tracks don't even have lane 4. It's like I'm out in lane 3 trying to cut in.
And most people are going to be standing in lane 4, yelling and screaming.
So true.
While
Yeah.
coaching is all the way up on the bench or up on the windowsill. It's Nassau Community College.
Yes.
How crazy is that?
I
You look
know.
back at that and you're like, how the hell did we coach there?
I was just gonna say, how do we get away with
How do
that?
we do that?
Do
But
you
you're
remember
right.
the guy? Do you remember the guy that would sweep the floors? It was
Yes.
like mid race. The people would run by. He goes sweeping by. He wouldn't even have to look. He just knew he went to the side. They'd run by. He'd keep sweeping. I was like, how's this? Is this got eyes on the back of his head? He just won
No,
with the beam.
no athletes on the coach's bench. They would
Yeah.
come out like, Coach, can I come over? Well, you have about 10 seconds before they finish this lap because they
Yeah.
just ran by once. Or the fact I think was the best part of Nassau Community College in the friendship games, and I hope you remember, is the free donuts.
Of course.
Oh, the
Yeah.
free donuts.
I would always be like, no, no, this is for my assistant coach.
Coach,
Like,
I got you the jelly. Did you get
yeah.
me a few of them? No, they only. I think they saw me take it and I ran away. I'm like, all right, good job.
I always remember the kids asking, like, oh, can I get a donut? No, that's for coaches.
No, I
Hey,
I
can you
need
get
this. I need this. I need
Yeah.
my energy.
Yeah. I loved when they would have like apples or oranges there. Come on, that's for sure. It's like fake fruit there.
Yeah, what am I doing with
It's
that?
not donuts. Come on, let's be
Give me the
serious.
give me the jelly donut.
Yeah, I know.
Oh God.
Yeah, but they had the coffee, the hot chocolate, the donuts. There was a little bit of fruit. Um, that was really it. Do you remember for the championship? They had a whole room like of catered food.
Yes, yes, I remember that.
That was awesome.
Yes. Ah, friendship games. How I miss you.
I know. I don't think I found that out until like the second to last one I was
Yeah,
there.
I didn't know either.
Yes, and So we got medals at each round.
Right.
Then the points were like tripled to get the trophies and flowers, and you got T-shirts.
Yep. Remember getting a ton of those T-shirts, and some years were better than others.
Yeah,
I remember when I think we were in high school, we got like the gray cutoffs if you made the championships.
yeah. I
You
think there
tank
was a difference.
tops for one of them or whatever year it was.
Mhm.
Yeah, those were always cool to have, and the kids loved those.
Of
And
course.
we always ended up with like, hey coach, you got enough shirts? Yeah, I got the whole team. I think they have two each. Oh, you want 15 more? I'm like,
Yeah,
all right, I guess, sure. I'll
yeah. I
just
know.
I'll give them as gifts.
Yeah, that's it. Little stocking stuffers.
Well, you were saying before about breaking down the seasons. Like I remember just going into finishing spring and then like just urging like I just want to get out there and just start training again for just
Mm.
getting so excited for the following year, you know, and just getting ready to go and wanting to train and get ready for the following year because as distance runners, when you look
We don't
at
have
it,
an off season.
there is no off season, and you're looking at pretty much the heart of the team because that particular part of the team is training all summer, so that's like an extra fourth season.
Hmm.
Coming down into cross country, then coming back in the winter, and then going into spring, and then having to repeat it again. There
Hmm.
was no time off. There was none of that, and that I think that's what made it so special and so cool because you just look forward to every year, and you just it's you that's who you spend time with. You spend
Yeah,
more time with your teammates and your coaches than you did with your family. You know.
yeah, it's true. It's funny you bring that up because my coach at Iona would always say that, like the distance part. Like, okay, Iona was tiny, but for cross country nationals, we always did really, really well. So he was saying to us like years ago, he's like, I thought about having a full team, sprinters, jumpers, throwers. He's like, but if you give a jumper a full ride, you can't use him for cross country. If you have a jumper or sprinter for indoors outdoors, there's really only, let's say, 2 or 3 events they can do. As a distance runner, you can do the 15, the 5K, the 10K, maybe even steeplechase. Like for outdoors, you're kind of getting a few extra events. You can run on a relay. There's just kind of more options.
Right.
And
Right.
he's like, it was almost like the best bang for your buck. Where hey, we could have them for 3 seasons. Let's just go that way. We'll go strictly distance runners and make it happen.
And that's what they do, and they still do that now,
They
and that's
still
why they're
do.
still a powerhouse.
Yeah. But
That's
they actually have been getting some more sprinters and jumpers on there.
oh good. Okay,
Yeah.
good. It's
They
about time,
have.
right?
Yeah, no, it took a little bit, but that's all right. I think that some guy go top six like the long jump or the 200 um at the last MAC championship back in 2015, because of
Okay.
COVID. So you didn't get that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
we are now 48 minutes in.
Why am I not surprised? This is the short one,
Why do I bother having a stopwatch?
just to keep us somewhat on
I'm like
track.
looking at it, I'm like, yep, well, there goes that. And good.
That's it.
But we have so much to talk about still.
We do.
Never ending stories.
Hmm.
I mean, we're going to be up to episode like 358th, and then we're going to be like, well, we still got more stories to go.
And we still have the Providence story.
And we
So
still have the Providence story. So if you don't hear it in the next episode, you'll definitely hear it eventually.
yeah, just stay tuned because it's coming. That
It
story's
will.
coming for sure.
It is.
Yeah,
Part one.
yeah. Well, yeah, of course, part one.
Part one, and then we'll talk about part two. And if we have time, we might be able to have a part three.
We might. There's definitely a lot to say about it, so we could. I know. Any other high school memories you thinking of or want to share from winter track only?
A lot more good, lot more bad will outweigh the good right now for me.
Okay. Um, I just always remember having like just the late winter training when it just like it kind of sucked. And at least when I was at South, we were able to run inside, and we kind of had like an exact square that was 200 meters or like rough estimate. So sometimes like when it got to championship season, there wasn't that many people and you could run around and it actually worked out really well.
I
So
hated doing that. See, I hated that. I hated running
I
inside.
mean,
We
I
did the
didn't
same
like it.
thing. We would go to the third floor, but
Yeah.
the problem was that we almost would run teachers down when they wouldn't understand. They would come out of their classroom as we're coming around the turn,
Yep.
but everything was so tight that like even the sprinters were up there. Oh, stay on the inside, and you have always had that one person that wouldn't. Then, pow,
Yep.
into the locker. And I've seen too much of that.
And the
It's
papers go flying up in the
oh
air.
yeah, and everyone wants to run even harder because you're taking the turns pretty soft, but then you're running these straightaways, and I just
Yes.
remember my shins
Oh yeah.
killing me after a lot of these workouts. You
Mm-hmm.
know, can't run inside. I don't even like running inside now. Even I don't even bring my team into indoors really too much now.
Well, we can't at all. I mean, even before all this, we weren't allowed inside like at all. And we've had a couple of years ago for winter, we had a really, really bad winter. And so for us, depending on your conference championship,
Right.
it's like January 6th or January 25th. So we had a few weeks in a row where like we couldn't train at all. We were doing indoor workouts, but we're like, you can't really get too much fitter. We need a big space, but we can't run around. So we're doing like, hey, jumping jacks and squats and
Yeah.
burpees and okay, we're doing that for half an hour. All right, like you'll stay in shape, but not running shape. It's different. Like we're trying to specifically train to run faster for a mile or 2 miles.
Right.
We're still in shape, but just it's different.
You know
So
what's a cool episode we should do? Crazy,
Providence.
crazy. Well,
Oh,
Providence is right here. I mean, that's the top priority right now.
okay,
But I would say craziest workouts, like best
okay.
workouts you ever ran,
I
worst workouts you've ever run.
oh, you you've been there for one of my worst. Yeah.
I've seen. I think I
You
we'll discuss that off air before we bring it here. But I
all right.
think so. I'm gonna have to think back a little bit, but I think I know what you're talking about.
All right. Well,
Um,
let's get to that because I'm curious if you know what I know and if you're thinking what I'm thinking.
oh, you want to do it now?
Yeah, no, no, no. Let's end this and then we
Oh,
talk over
okay,
there.
okay. All
We
right.
we can't let our viewers hear about that yet.
Yeah, can't let that happen.
Yeah,
All right. Well, we are now officially 51 minutes and 39 seconds in.
perfect.
So much for keeping it under 50 minutes. But again, we just
Less than
love
an
to
hour,
talk and we love to just spread our knowledge to everybody.
definitely.
So
So as they say on the track, stick, stick, stick. Got it.
we're off. Well, everyone have a good night. Thank you for watching. Again, you can put comments down. I remembered to fix the settings so you
Yeah,
can
I was
now
gonna
leave
say.
comments. I'm sorry about that. Now you can leave comments. I figured the whole thing out. So you can leave comments if you have any questions or anything you want answered or any topics you want us to discuss. Um,
If you want to
please,
share your best or worst winter track memory,
yep. If you
feel
have
free to go for
if you have a good memory of Providence for yourself, put it there,
it. We'll see if it tops ours.
of course. But we'll say good night for now, and we will see you next Wednesday for Headlocks.
Yes, headlocks.
So thank you for everybody for showing up. Ooh,
Got it.
good night.
Good night, guys.